Okay, so the next thing we want to talk about is bounce. And bounce is an angle, for some of those of you who don't know, bounce is somewhat of an angle, meaning what is the angle between the trailing edge of the club and the lead part of the club face. That is an angle in there. Now, most clubs, this one, for example, has 14 degrees of bounce. And why is bounce so important, and how do you use it? It's very easy that if you have the face too square to the target, and it doesn't have any grind on the leading edge, meaning about a degree of grind to let that club glide through the turf, it's probably a very good idea that you open the face slightly. And when you do that, what it does is it allows the leading edge of the heel to enter the turf first, and it will slowly glide along the grass as the bounce propels the trailing edge of the club forward. If you have the face too square and come in at too much of a descending angle, that leading edge is going to dig too much into the turf, and you have the even with a good setup and even with good release points and balance points, you have a very high potential for that club to get stuck in the ground, i.e. you're going to probably chunk it. So it's a very good idea to have the face open, if ever so slightly, to allow that heel to enter, the bounce to work in your favor, and to make it a heck of a lot easier to hit shots solid. So when you would set up to the ball, you'd have a square club face, you can open it ever so slightly. You don't have to open it, 15, 20, 30, 45 degrees. I'm talking about just a little tweak to the right for right-handers, and then you take your normal setup from there. Now, one of the things that we talked about in one of our YouTube videos was heel drag. And I've got a couple different sand wedges here. I want to explain to you real quick what heel drag is. So we've got, as you can see, these two sand wedges here, they're both 56 degrees. They both have 14 degrees of bounce. But you can see that there's much more mass in the heel on this club right here. Okay, and this one has had it shaved off. It's almost rounded to some extent. All right. Now, what heel drag is as this club enters the ground, as you're swinging your golf club, that mass at the back end of the club head starts to drag through the grass ever so slightly. It has a tendency to affect how the face is moving through impact. Okay, that's dragging into the ground. If you have a club head that does not have or has limited heel drag, such as this one right here, there's nothing to get caught and or i.e. drag through the turf. So the elimination of heel drag will make the club work much more efficiently through the turf, and it's going to make your striking contact that much better, and your ability to control spin, distance, trajectory, etc. is going to be far superior. So remember that when you're looking at sand wedges. Does it have too much mass in the back end? Again, what is referred to as heel drag, or has it been shaved off? Most sand wedges, 56, 58, and so forth, manufacturers have gone to shaving that back end down. So even though it has the 14 degrees of bounce, again, you can notice that no heel drag. This one, 14 degrees of bounce and a lot of heel drag. Okay, now that we've gone over setup, why you get off, how you get off, ball position, balance points, grip, center lines of body, all that good stuff, heel drag, bounce, etc. Now we finally get to the point where it's a good time to learn how to hit these chip shots. And what we've done is we've broken this down into, let's say, numerous levels, kind of like going to school. You have your freshman class, your sophomore, your junior, your senior, and even your graduate classes. So hopefully we can explain that to you, and we'll start out with very simple ways that you can utilize to turn one club into multiple clubs. So it starts to become, pretty soon you have so many shots that it's kind of like a closet full of clothes and you have nothing to wear. Okay, so how do we turn your sand wedge into 9 clubs or 12 clubs and utilize different shots, different trajectories, different spin rates, and so forth? So I'm going to start at the most fundamental level, and that's ball position. We talked about where your stock ball position is before, and that was 4 inches inside your lead heel and or somewhat close to the instep of your right foot. Okay, the middle of the ball would be played at that spot. That would, if you understand the fundamentals of why that we explained in our other videos, where the club's going to bottom out, where the hands are going to release, and where the brain expects all those things to happen, you will have a better understanding as we get to the so-called graduate level courses and how all the pros are able to take a full swing with a sand wedge or lob wedge at let's say 70, 80 miles an hour and only hit the ball 20 feet, but it goes straight up in the air, okay? We'll get into that later in this series, but I first want you to understand the most basic level, and that's 3 different ball positions. So the one where the middle of the ball is 4 inches inside your lead heel and very close to the instep of your right foot, that is considered your stock ball position. You will find out if you go practice this, it's not very difficult to hit the ball solid. In fact, it's very easy because you have all your systems, your physics, your biomechanics, your neurology, etc., all working together. And as you will find out if you're at the range or if you go to the range, the ability to hit the ball in the center of the face, crisp contact, right trajectory, right spin rate is very simple, okay? That's not going to be your homework. What your homework is going to be is to practice that stock shot until you feel comfortable, and again, it won't take you very long. And then what I want you to do is modify that ball position by 1/2 a ball width, which is 0.84 inches. That's all it is, okay? So we've got stock shot where the middle of the ball is about 4 inches inside. You can even call it in the middle of your stance. We've got the back ball position where we moved it 1/2 a ball width back. If you can zoom in a little bit on that. I want everybody to be able to see that real clear. Okay, so you can obviously see that that is a 1/2 a ball width back. So the front of the ball is at that spot that we determined was 4 inches back from our lead foot. And as you make your swing, as you set up with this one, the butt end of the club was pointed here and you had a subtle shaft lean towards the target. When the ball's back, you can set up the identical way, and just because of the change in ball position, the shaft will look like you press your hands forward, but you'll notice that that butt end is still pointed in the same spot that it was for the standard ball position. The difference is the lean on the shaft angle, and of course the club has been de-lofted simply because you move the ball back in the stance. Everything else remains the same: the setup, the swing, the motion, everything. And because you have more shaft lean and less loft, and you're moving the same, you're going to contact the ball prior or sooner than the club is going to hit the ground, so the club will be de-lofted, the ball will come out lower and run a little more. Obviously, if we have 3 ball positions, we got a standard, we got a back, and if we move it 1/2 a ball width forward, you can zoom in on that real quick, you will see that the back of that ball is now at that centered position that we discussed earlier. If we have the butt end of the club pointed where we do for every other shot, you'll notice that the shaft lean is not as strong. In fact, it's almost vertical. And as you come into the ball, the club will be already leveling out, and you will hit the ball with the straighter shaft will mean more loft on your club, and the ball will run up the face more, gather more friction, and go higher with more spin. So even though you have 3 different ball positions, that position is only changing by about 0.84 inches or 1/2 the width of a ball. Everything else that you're going to do is identical for each one, yet you will get 3 distinctly different trajectories, 3 distinctly different spin rates. And again, it's not hard to hit these shots solid, but your homework is going to be to go out and get a visual image or a mental Rolodex of what each shot does. Again, one will go higher with a little more spin, one will go a little lower, and one will go the lowest. It's up to you to go out and determine how far each one flies and then how far each one rolls. Give that a shot. I'm sure you're going to find out that it's very simple, yet very effective. Hey everybody, Pete here from The Golf Paradigm. Thanks for watching the video. You can check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And if you want to watch more videos or subscribe, you can do it right here.